Welcome back. This is JCon, and today we're going to be going over exclusives and variants. To start off, I just want to go over the terminology that I'll be using for this video. These terms get used interchangeably, so if you don't grasp the concept, don't worry about that. But for purposes of the video, I'll be referring to exclusives as characters that aren't available anywhere but certain retailers, and variants as special edition ones that have key cosmetic differences from the main one in the set. And these are also specific to a retailer. Again, they use these terms interchangeably, and most of the time I need to look up if they're exclusives or variants. This should explain the different types of variants as well. So when somebody says flocked, you'll know what they mean. To piggyback on our last episode, I urge people to patronize smaller retailers and shops. There are ones called the specialty series, which I believe are ones that can only be purchased at smaller shops and online stores. While I don't know exactly the criteria they use to select the shops, that I don't know what kind of businesses are exempt from that and what kinds are eligible for that. But I do know that they won't show up at big name retailers unless they're being sold secondhand. I gotta be honest, some of my favorites are in the specialty series, like Leatherhead and Man-at-Arms. They also have PX exclusives, which stands for Previews Exclusives. I was told these are given to comic retailers who use a certain distributing company to get their comics. I'm not sure where they come from, but I do know they show up in comic stores, and sometimes the comic stores just try to get rid of them, and sometimes they mark them up like crazy. If I'm able to find if I'm not able to find them anywhere else, I like to go to Entertainment Earth. Walgreens tends to have some pretty good exclusives in the ways of Marvel, Star Wars, and WWE. If you're a Teen Titans Go fan, I've seen exclusives show up in Toys R Us most often. Target has its share of exclusives like Gizmo Duck. As far as I know, Target is the only place to get Target.com rather is the only place to get them during the Funko Fridays, which is Target.com exclusive Friday only event. GameStop and Hot Topic have too many to count, so I'm just gonna say check them out for yourself. Variants can be something as small as a cosmetic change like this. Here's the original, and here's the Best Buy variant. Just as an aside, I love this variant. Monster Hunter is one of my favorite games in this series, of all time. It is like one of my all-time favorite series from Capcom. So she's wearing the Azure Rathalos, or the Rathalos Souls, what it's sometimes called, armor, which is pretty much my go-to armor in the earlier iterations of the game. Not to mention all of the Black Panther pops. This pearlescent one is one of the best ones I've ever seen, so it's just gorgeous. Sometimes a variant is the fact that they have two packaged together. Most of them at least have something cool in addition to that. But cosmetic variants include different coloring like black and white, sepia tone, or another thing that they usually have for video games are like the Player 2 variants for the fighter games and stuff like that. And that's kind of like what this Best Buy one is. Some of the variants are of a scene or a pose or a costume that is a fan favorite. Certain Pops and Dorbz come with a Chase variant. I'm pretty sure the Chase is 1 in 5 for Dorbz. I imagine it's somewhere close to that for Pops. But anyway, these are special poses that are hard to find. If you see them on shelves, grab them if you want them. That is, anyway. Some of them range from awesome to lame, but at least you know they're rarer than the other ones. Some less than reputable vendors will order 5 and then mark up the Chase figure and sell the rest at normal price. If you want to guarantee that you get them at that price, like you can do this to guarantee that. But if you want to play the odds, I would stick with trustworthy vendors. that aren't trying to make a buck like that. There are some pretty standard variant versions I'd like to run down so you can decide which ones you like and look over them that way. Probably the most common variant is the metallic, which simply means that it has metallic paint version as opposed to the regular matte version. Sometimes they'll use metallic paint on the metal pieces of an item, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're any kind of special edition. Generally, there'll be some kind of sticker signifying if they're a special edition or not. The next step up is the chrome variant, which are actually shinier versions of the metallic, and they're to give the appearance of painted chrome, like like this. There is yet another metal-like variant, and it's one of my favorites, called the Patina variant, which are meant to look like worn metal statue. There aren't a whole lot of these, but they're very cool. Within the past year, a new variant has emerged, which is the 8-bit variant. It's meant to give the appearance of an 8-bit Nintendo or Nintendo era video game. Funko has made glitter versions of certain pops in the past. They have a whole line of Disney variants called the Diamond Collection available at Hot Topic. Some of these Disney ones, like Ursula, are pretty rare to get in the originals. So, like, the Diamond Collection is really the only way to get them, unless you want to try to look on eBay, and they're going to be pricey to get, like, an original Ursula or something like that. There isn't a whole lot of these, but there's the flocked variants, and people love them. What it means is they have like a fuzzy effect on them. I'd recommend, if you get the glitter or the flock variants, just leave them in the package, because the glitter probably gets everywhere, and the flocked ones, I would imagine are going to be pretty hard to clean if they get dusty or lint on them or something like that. But this is just speculation. I did take one out of the box, and it didn't look like there was any problems with it. So another somewhat common variant for the horror pops are the blood splattered or bloody variants. As the name implies, they have blood splattered effect on them, and typically on the window of the box as well. My favorites are the glow-in-the-dark or GID variants, is how they kind of abbreviate that. If I'm being honest, though, I don't think they really glow. Like, they range in effect from not at all to kinda, but I still like glow-in-the-dark ones probably the best. Well, technically, these aren't variants. There's some cool miscellaneous pops, like the oversized 6-inch pop, which is 6 inches, obviously. There are also vehicles for both Pops and Dorbz. I guess the technical term is rides, but you get the point. Now, one of my favorites, and there are only about 3 or 4 of these, are these 6-inch mechs, which have a tiny rider you can take out. They're just cool. I think that Titanfall 2 and the Devo Pops are the only ones that I know that have this functionality, but I'm not positive. Just a fun fact while we're on the subject, most of all the early Disney and Marvel Pops are bobbleheads, meaning their heads spring and it makes their heads bobble around. As far as I know, Funko still has to uphold the rule that all Marvel Pops are bobbleheads. Rumor has it there were some Wolverines that were non-bobbleheads that leaked out, and you can fetch a fortune on those, but I've never actually confirmed this, so I don't know. Well, now that we've run down what any beginner should know, I think I can propose a hypothesis. A lot of people ask, why are these things so popular? Well, let's compare it to another brand in the same market. These are the Vinnie Mates by Diamond Select, and I'm really just using them as an example. Arguably, these are just as cute and fun as the Pops, albeit they do kind of resemble Legos, and Slimer and Bankman kind of have weird expressions on their face. If you don't believe me, let's do a quick quiz. Without seeing the names, who are these two? If you said Sam and Dean Winchester, you're right. How about these ones right here? Yep, that's right. Goonies Never Say Die. What movie are these from? That's right. Superbad. See, if they aren't in some kind of outrageous costume, you really have to know your stuff to know who's who. Even though I love Pops, they really aren't the perfect collectible. And as I explained before, the biggest Pop sets were the Ghostbusters, and clearly Vinnie Mates all they have them as well. If miniatures are your thing, they even have Mini Mates, and those are way more popular than the Vinnie Mates. So they're pretty cool. Check them out. But there's no reason why the Vinnie Mates couldn't have been just as big of a success. But there's one reason I can think of. Right before they got big, the Pops retailed for $8.99, and Vinnie Mates are at $10.99. The decision process between buying a trinket that costs under $10 and one that's over $10 is like night and day. At least tease me with like the $9.99 thing. Having a whole another digit in the price, I mean, it'll stop me in my tracks, and I imagine it'll probably do the same thing for most other people. But one sad thing is that there are only two here that I actually paid full price for. And if you ask any mainstream toy manufacturer, the bin, meaning the clearance bin, is death. I don't know how much these cost to make, but I can't imagine they cost $10 to make each. Why not just keep it under 10 and avoid a slow death in the clearance bin? The main reason I was into the Pops in the first place is they were a cool, inexpensive item, and I could use them to bump me up to get the Super Saver shipping before I had Amazon Prime. And now I'm committed because I have so many, and I have a collection to maintain, but that's just my theory, and I'm sure that there are people in fancy suits that looks at graphs and whatnot probably know better than me, but that is my idea. Having things over $10 makes people more reluctant to buy them. Anyway, join me next Thursday. There's going to be 2 more Funko installments, and then we'll just we'll have a couple, or maybe there's just one. There should be 5 in total. Yeah. So yeah, we should have one more, and then one more after that. So be sure to check this out again on Thursday when I'll be posting up the next one. Okay. Thanks again, and have a great week.